Hi, I'm making another video so that you can see how to return to the Dropbox to read my comments back to you. So when I grade an assignment, you will get a notification in the mini bar at the top, and it will tell you the grade, and the grade is rounded. When you go to the actual grade book, you will see the actual grade. And you'll note that one assignment each in the reading responses and in the forum are one assignment is dropped from each of these, just because there's always a learning curve. And the second thing you'll notice, this video that I'm making is actually going to be right here. So it'll be in your feedback. But the second thing you'll notice is that you can't actually get to the assignment. To read my comments back to you. So what you need to do is go to the Dropbox, and when you get there, you'll see the assignment, and there will be a link to view it. You can also go back to your original submission. Now, when you get into the feedback that I've given you, you'll note that I've used the rubric, which I'm going to be using, and I'll just go through this quickly. It's broken up into 5 categories. How in-depth and how involved was your discussion? Did you go beyond plot summary to an analysis and bring something interesting to the table? Accuracy is, did you name the text correctly? Did you discuss the concepts correctly? Did you apply them correctly? Evidence, did you quote and analyze the specific language of the text as you were asked? And then there's clarity and grammar, and finally citation and MLA format. And so, yeah, do read through the categories for a better sense of what needs to be happening in the papers. And I just went right through that. Now, to actually see the comments on the paper, you need to click on this bar, the Turnitin Similarity Report. And when you do, it's going to load the feedback studio. And in it, I have put the, I'm going to be returning the comments to you. So what I've done for this assignment is I've actually just posted the assignment back to the Dropbox as if I were a student turning this in, mainly to show you that what gets highlighted when you submit something is anything that could be found in another source. So since I've already, or anything that was turned in before, so since I've already turned this in before, the entire thing is highlighted, and thus you get a a match of 99%. It's useful to be able to note here that if you click on these categories, you can see where the paper information came from. And then you could also exclude things like the bibliography. You know, what I tell students is that you should be producing something like 10% of quotation to 90% analysis and discussion of your own. So in a paper that's 1,500 words long, 10% of the paper should be quoted, roughly 150 words. For literature, we tend to quote a little bit more because we're looking at the language more specifically, but that's just the general rule. And if you want, you can see if you can get close to that 10% by excluding the bibliography, etc. The other thing that you can do here is that you can download your paper. It'll have my comments, but the comments will be footnoted, and at the end, it's a very hard thing to read. But if for whatever reason you wanted to see the other sources that were used, you could also download this. Okay, but one thing that I want to go over here is the comments. So you'll note that you can hide this similarity layer and get rid of all of the background plagiarism report. And you just need to make sure that this feedback layer is clicked so that you can actually see the comments. And in the comments, I discuss everything from grammar. You actually have to click on the comment to read it. That's already made. That's not one of my comments. I just threw it in there. But more likely what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to read the comment and then potentially follow a link for more information. So, do definitely follow the links and see that there is a lot more information that should help you as you're writing your papers. I typically comment on things like language and how effectively you're responding to the assignment. And let's briefly go through the assignment to talk about the responses. So I'd asked you to write this essay where you were looking at these examples, and I wanted you to format the paper using MLA format with a header, heading, title, and a works cited page. Basically, this assignment just gets us started with how to format the papers and how to respond to the instructions of the assignment. In the first paragraph, I asked you to define the 3 kinds of plagiarism. Then in body paragraphs, I wanted you to talk about each of these examples and discuss whether or not they were plagiarizing. And then finally, in a conclusion, I wanted you to let me know what you learned. Some people use I, some people try not to use I. For this assignment, it's okay to use I. For the future assignments where you're doing analysis, I want you to try to avoid using I. And the reason is that you should focus on analyzing the text. And sometimes I will lead to opinions about the text and not actual analysis. But okay, so what I wanted you to do is to recognize that this first example is actually patch writing. And you'll note that in the original, adult criminals and youth involved in illegal activities have reported that guns are not difficult to obtain, becomes adults and youth. So we drop the word criminals. Involved stays the same. In illegal becomes in criminal activity, have reported that guns are, instead of not difficult, the student has replaced the word easy. And so as you read through this, illegal transactions, illegal or unregulated, you see that basically the student copied and pasted this into an essay and merely changed a few words around all the way through. And so this is a clear case of patch writing. And I wanted the example to actually be changed all the way through so that you could see that there should be no confusion about some things being quoted word for word. But okay, so this was a clear case of patch writing. The second one, example 2, is also patch writing, but it's less clear. And in fact, it's borderline, so it could be passable as not patch writing. But I was more interested in seeing how you explained your response. So it's not difficult to see tomorrow's sophisticated computers rapidly processing complex data from animals and transmitting it in a useful form to humans via an earpiece, handheld device, or spectacle lens display. Becomes Lloyd and Clayton theorized that the supercomputers of tomorrow will be able to transmit comprehensible information from animals to humans through small devices such as earpieces. Now, what I want you to notice is that the sophisticated computers becomes the supercomputers, complex becomes comprehensible, transmitting becomes transmit. So really, the student did move things around, but really is still switching out words from the original source. In order to avoid patch writing altogether, you really should create your own way of saying something. So you want to rethink using words from the original source. And when in doubt, you should, as this student does, quote the original words of the source. But ideally, there's a mixing of quoting and paraphrasing, so you can't really get around having to paraphrase. All right, so that was patch writing, but it was fairly close to passing. I'd probably still ask the student to revise that. But okay, so number 3 was a little bit more cut and dried, since all of the words from players of violent video games to criminal acts were literally copied and pasted word for word into the student writing, and the student contributed the words "worthy claims that." Hopefully you can break a sweat doing that. But yeah, this is non-attribution, when the language is taken word for word from a source and there are no quotation marks. Now, the student needed to put quotation marks around what was taken and an end citation. No, that's not true because, the page one, A1 would go here, but the student has cited worthy in the sentence, and so that is enough of a citation. But no, what I want you to notice is that had the student done this correctly, they would have needed to put brackets around the P because they've changed the capital P to a lowercase p. So you use brackets whenever you change something from the original. But this isn't cheating because the student at least mentioned that there's information coming from a source. Cheating occurs in this instance. It is almost the exact same thing. But cheating occurs when language is taken word for word or even paraphrased from a source and there is no citation to indicate that the information is coming from the source. So this last example is an example of where a student just took information and tried to pass it off as his or her own. Okay, I hope this was instructive, and I look forward to reading your work.